Asylum Seekers by Corwin Black. During the Covid-19 outbreak of 2020, people were arrested and fined for attending worship services during Easter Sunday while worshiping in their cars. A few years later, Earth made first contact with an alien species, and with the fear of quote-unquote contamination, things got worse. Copyright 2020 by Corwin Black, all rights reserved. Asylum Seekers, a science fiction thriller by Corwin Black. This is a work of fiction. All people, places, things, and ideas are figments of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to anything in the real world is purely coincidental. Seriously, there is absolutely nothing in this entire book that has anything to say politically, socially, or ethically about the hypocrisy of the actual modern world in which we live. I made the whole thing up. Thanks, Corwin Black. Disclaimer number 2. Asylum Seekers is an action-adventure-oriented story where the fictional characters in the story do fictional but very dangerous things, like fight a space battle in the vacuum of outer space in a starship that is on fire, for example. Do not attempt anything discussed in this work of fiction. Doing so may result in severe injury or death. And as a bonus, never take the advice of a politician on firearms safety. Remember, these are the same people who sold F-14A Tomcats to Iran. Chapter 1. I Remember COVID-19. Time, the year 2020 of the Common Era. Place, the state of Kentucky. When I was 12 years old, the first massive COVID-19 lockdown went into effect. During the pandemic, religious services were accosted by law enforcement under the orders of certain politicians. These people were worshiping in their cars in order to keep distant from anyone who might be infected. They were fined or arrested anyway. These same politicians banned any protest against this action because it was deemed dangerous to the spread of COVID-19. A few years after that, Earth had its first contact with an alien species. I guess all those videos of UFOs the Pentagon released was for a purpose. Shortly after that, artificial gravity and hyperspace were also discovered, and the galaxy changed. However, these same politicians just saw this as an opportunity to exercise their control. I was one of those people who was arrested while worshiping in my car with my mom and dad. All these years later, I have not forgotten how people abused their power and how they thought that redacteds were a threat to their security and power. Even today, it is illegal to even put in print the name of redacted, the son of redacted. Hopefully, that will change. That may be up to you, the person who is listening to this now. Chapter 2. Lies. Place, Mars Terraforming Zone, privately owned ranch homestead. Time, January the 18th at 1648 Standard Earth Time in the year 12 after first contact. The Mars landscape is not as colorful as the travel brochures suggest. The planet is basically all brownish red, and there isn't really much to look at, even in the terraforming zone, where you have normal gravity and atmosphere. The new Martian landscape actually reminded me a lot of southern Arizona, where my family moved after that Covid-19 quarantine was lifted. Unfortunately, today it was very exciting, but it was the kind of excitement you don't want to have. I was sitting at my workbench cleaning my lockpicks with John Henry, that's my shotgun, slung across my chest, when a dozen heavily armed men got out of a troop transport and scurried up to my front door. Unfortunately, I was expecting them. However, there were significantly more of them than I had expected.
"This is the United Nations Martian Police. We are serving a warrant,"
said one of them as I watched on my video feed from my workshop. With that, they immediately slammed my front door with a portable battering ram. My door was a little more sturdy than they expected, and they dropped the battering ram on their feet. It was sort of like using an aluminum bat to hit a tank. The guy with the bat is going to break his hands. I turned on the intercom. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" I asked calmly. I could see them over the video feed, but they could not see me, or just exactly how well armed I was. This pleased me in a certain way because I liked being underestimated.
"Open up in the name of the Martian Police Department,"
they demanded.
"We have a search warrant."
Their statement that they had a search warrant wasn't true, I knew. I asked for the serial number on the warrant, which they would have been happy to give me if they actually had one. My question did something very important, though. It confused them. It gave me the critical 6 seconds that it took to place my mod deuce on the floor behind some conveniently located cinder blocks. The mod deuce weighs just under 60 kilograms. The stormtroopers were wearing body armor, and armor-piercing ammunition had been outlawed for civilians. Ironic. Nobody ever thought to ask the question if the government planned on using armored troops against redacted. I managed to stay calm, and my voice sounded like it was perfectly calm, like a spring day as well. Truthfully, this could go to bloodshed very quickly. If it did, I also knew why they were here, and that I actually was breaking intergalactic law, and my crime was punishable by death. They would massacre everyone here if they got the chance. I had been a soldier for a long time, and I had mastered the art of appearing and acting calm in battle, even if I was actually emotionally terrified at the time.
"We have reports that you've come in contact with a redacted while on Mars,"
said the stormtrooper, avoiding my question. I had seen things like this before. Typically, the stormtroopers would kill all of the people inside, then plant evidence like child pornography, an untraceable handgun, and terrorist literature, for example. Then they would print up a bogus search warrant so that they could quote-unquote legally justify the murders. It might sound hard to believe that this type of thing was going on in the present day, but sadly, it wasn't much different than what the redacted police did to the people of Redacted during their freedom protests. Not to mention how many students were redacted back in Redacted Square and Redacted. The stormtroopers started to demand an answer. "I'm an atheist," I lied.
"Prove it,"
said the stormtrooper. I wasn't an atheist, actually. I was a redacted. But they were here to kill redacteds. I wasn't about to make it easy for them. Besides, one of the redacted commandments was "Thou shalt not kill." Technically, "Thou shalt not murder." And I didn't want to introduce 12-gauge slugs into their intestines at 1,000 feet per second. in order to save the lives of any children who may or may not theoretically be hiding in my basement, if I didn't have to. Lying to them seemed like a more ethical option, I reasoned, and a lot less messy. Not to mention it would require a lot less paperwork, and I really hate paperwork. I'm an atheist, I repeated. There's a plaque on the doorframe. Just take a look, I said. The stormtrooper read the sign above my door, which said, "I'd rather be fishing." The stormtrooper had a confused look on his face when he saw my fishing sign, so I pointed him in the right direction. "Not that sign," I said. "The other one to your left," I stated. He did as I suggested and looked at the sign next to the doorbell. It read, "Welcome to Avalon Ranch, home of John Beauregard Singer, member of the Atheist Defense League."
So you don't practice redacted entity? Is what you're saying?
Asked the extremely well-armed thugs. That's exactly what I'm saying, I lied through my teeth. Again, I would rather lie than have to gun these guys down, even if they did deserve it. Besides, there were 12 of them and only one of me, with 2 little girls hiding in my basement. It would be a shame to waste a whole bunch of 50 caliber rounds on evil stormtroopers at $5 each. $5 per round, not $5 per stormtrooper, under these circumstances. Besides, I was badly outnumbered. Even with this ridiculous firearm, it would take a miracle for me to win a gunfight. There was a pause as the stormtroopers tried to decide what to do next. It gave me a quick moment to reflect on the irony of the situation. I had enlisted at age 17 with my parents' permission, and had spent my entire career defending the Constitution of the United States. I doubted that the stormtroopers saw the irony, that they had taken the same oath that I had, and now were trying to kill me and the 2 little girls hiding in my basement for practicing redacted entity. As I watched through the video feed, I saw that one of the stormtroopers had a pentagram tattooed on his hand. How ironic. The man who was here to stop my religion from spreading off of planet Earth was wearing a satanic tattoo on his hand, which was perfectly legal.
"I'll have to ask you some questions,"
said the stormtrooper. "Go ahead," I said.
"What's your name?"
he asked. "John Beauregard Singer," I said truthfully.
"What's your profession?"
asked the stormtrooper. "I'm a private military contractor," I said. This got their attention. I could see the stormtroopers physically stutter back a few steps. One of them grabbed his redacteds, if you know what I mean.
"Are you armed?"
asked the stormtrooper. Suddenly, the 12 heavily armed stormtroopers had real skin in the game. Bad guys don't like it when the good guys can shoot back. Just ask the Hong Kong police. "No, I'm one of those pacifist-type mercenaries," I said sarcastically. "Of course I'm armed," I said flatly. I added, "I'm licensed through the United Nations, the United States of America, and through the Atheist Foundation for Stopping the Intergalactic Spread of Redacted Entity," I said. "Check my licenses. My call sign is Picasso, like the painter," I stated. My call sign really was Picasso, and there really was an atheist organization dedicated to stopping the intergalactic spread of redacted entity. I left out the part of me being an actual redacted and had been working as a double agent who was actively working to stop the atheist organization from hunting down redacteds and punishing them under the Intergalactic Religious Purity Preservation Act, or IRPA. One of the stormtroopers was frantically tapping on his computer pad. I assumed he was double-checking the fact that I was actually a fully licensed military contractor who owned big guns that held lots of bullets, commonly referred to as a mercenary. As he checked my licenses, I patted John Moses on its belt of linked 50 BMG cartridges. The guy finally looked up from his pad and nodded.
Singer really is a PMC for an atheist organization. He's one of us, guys,
he said.
Sorry to bother you, Mr. Singer,
said the stormtrooper apologetically. Call me Picasso, I corrected. When the stormtroopers were gone, I stashed John Moses back into my pocket watch. I said a prayer, thanking the Holy Redacted that I didn't have to kill any of them. Then I went to a hidden door with a bunker underneath it. There, 2 sisters, aged 12 and 9, were huddled in fear. Their parents had just been sentenced to a year of solitary confinement for possessing a redacted testament on Mars. It reminded me of when I was 12 and the police arrested my family. The bad guys are gone, I told the girls. Your mom and dad have just been smuggled onto Titan, and they are staying with redacted friends there. I'm going to smuggle you off Mars tomorrow and drop you off on my way to Slingshot Station. The girls were visibly relieved. I got them a super warm couple of blankets and cooked them a large pizza. Redacted loves you, and so do I said to them. I brought out my guitar and played them a lovely ballad. They loved it. I'm actually a pretty fair guitar player. Fortunately, playing guitar was still legal, unlike practicing redacted entity when not on planet Earth or on another authorized free religion zone. If I had been caught with these children in my homestead, I would have been executed according to the intergalactic laws, and these girls would have suffered probably a worse fate. I guess the Holocaust wasn't that long ago after all. Stay tuned for chapters 3 and 4 coming up soon. Thank you for listening.